Yeah, where's all of that about? Okay, that was weird.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of
That's
nowhere?
what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Ooh, welcome everyone to UFO Undercover. Hope everyone's having a great evening, great afternoon, great morning, wherever you happen to be on our big, beautiful planet. I have lost count how many countries this show goes out to. It's got to be pretty close to all of them these days. But I want to welcome Preston Dennett tonight, and I haven't talked to Preston in a while. I seen him in LA. Was it 2 years ago? Two years ago, right?
Yep,
Yes, he's a good looking guy in person. I got to tell y'all guys, he's good looking. We were at the Writers of the Future award ceremony at the gala event, actually, and which is always an interesting event. I've been going for 7 years now, and it's all I can say. It's very, very interesting. A lot of good authors, got good illustrators out there. And before we get started, remember, people, you can submit 4 times a year. I've seen people win first year. I've seen people go 50 times. Remember, when we say 50 times, it's 4 times a year. It's not like 50 years, okay? It varies for different people, how long it's going to take to win. All I can say is put a good story out and keep your fingers crossed. They've changed it a little bit now, so they give people more advice than they used to in the early days. So you get a little bit more advice. You get runners up and gold and silver and stuff like that. So a lot of you get a lot more feedback. In the very beginning, it wasn't much a way of feedback. It was either you won or you didn't win. But today it's a little bit different. But Preston knows he's won. He's got one of those pretty trophies up there. Those pretty, looks like he'd stab somebody to death with. Shh, I didn't say that loud. Oh, I see we got Doomsday Jay with us down there.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So Preston, how you been? I mean, life's treating you good and things are good. You got some new books coming out. What's going on?
Oh yeah. Yeah, always keeping busy, always having fun, always working on a book. Right now it's the sequel to Symmetry, Dolly's story, Dolly Safran.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
But gonna put out another book in my volume of the Not From Here series. Volume 5 was supposed to be the last one for a while, but no, I decided to do another one.
Well, you're an excellent
I've always
writer.
I'm busy.
Yeah, well, that's always good to stay busy. A friend of mine told me one day, he said, when are you going to stop being busy? I said, when they put me in a box. And I said, even then, I may come back and haunt y'all. I said, don't count it out. Yeah, well, you got to stay busy. And I imagine Dolly's a very interesting one to write for. I know when we bring her back, we're going to talk about her experiences. We had Dolly on last week. In case y'all didn't know, we didn't really get into her experiences. We talked about a lot of other stuff, but y'all know how I am. I like to introduce a contactee or an experiencer before we actually talk about their experiences, so y'all get to know who they are. It's a much better way of doing things, and you're much more familiar with the guests when they come back the second time. So anyway, she'll be coming back in the near future, and we'll be talking about her experiences. Glenn, everybody has different experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some basics, but still, ET and the way you how can I say this politely? It's the way for each person it's different. Okay, that's all I can say. I'm not saying there's not some basics, but but still, it's the way you judge your experience through your extraterrestrial contact. I don't know how else to say it. It's really the easiest way to say it. I know Preston's written quite a few times and had contact with quite a few contactees over the years, and it's been an interesting thing.
It may be
pretty much everyone has a different, something unique in their experience.
Yeah, they definitely do.
What I add to it is that it's very subjective to each individual. We had a discussion on one of my other shows about the difference between good and evil, and that it was a mage that I had asked the question of, and he said there's no such thing. It depends on your perspective. And the example he gave was that we have two farmers. One farmer A, has a fantastic field, it's coming in good, and it's going to be a good yield. Farmer B has, not so good of a field, needs some water, needs some tender loving care, and it's about to die. Well, a big storm comes through, drowns out Farmer A, the good crop, and destroys it. Goes over Farmer B's crop and gives it the water and nutrients it needs, and it comes in all the way full, and he has a great harvest. Farmer A has the worst experience. Farmer A is going to think the storm was evil. Farmer B thinks the storm was fantastic and good. The storm has no alignment one way or the other. So that's the best way to think of it. Is
I've talked to people
it's either going to be good or bad.
What was that? Pretty much the same experience, and they come away with completely different interpretations, but the details are essentially the same.
Yeah. Yes, they are. Not including Dolly, because we got to put her out here because we know y'all are friends. If you had, well, no, I don't want to get you in trouble here, so I don't want you to get whooped up on or nothing. So, out of all the experiences, I mean, I know you've had a lot. Have any of them left you just like, okay, what the hell was this about? I mean, I know they all in the beginning are kind of like, okay, this is much different, but I mean, have you had one that kind of made you worry about what's going on or what's happening? Or I'm looking for the right words, but for some reason they're just not coming out of my mouth, which that's unique. But I mean, have you had I'm sorry, but I mean, just one that just popped out, Dolly, you're not included in it. So, well, because I mean, we're going to be talking about you anyway in a couple of weeks, Dolly, so we don't want to give nothing away. But I mean, I know you've been writing for a long time. How many years you been writing for?
Oh gosh, we're closing on 40 years now. So 1988 is when I got involved. 86 is when I got involved. 88 I became serious. But my first book was 1996, but I wrote articles for 10 years before that.
So, I mean, I know you were in contact with people on and off. I mean, was there just something that, even in the early days, was there just something like, what did I get myself into here? Because I know a couple of times I've asked myself over the years, like, are you sure you want to be involved in this? I mean, because, some of these experiences you hear, you're kind of like, okay, and why am I talking to this person? So I'm just asking you, just off the cuff, was there something that just stood out that you have to use anybody's names or anything that just stood out that made you kind of like maybe a little nervous? Maybe should I be writing this kind of thing? Because I mean, you know about mill labs and stuff like that. So that's why I'm asking, actually.
Yeah. Well, initially I came to this field pretty naive. I mean, I really did. I didn't realize it was all cloak and dagger and cover-ups and, agents following people around, and I did have some trouble with that in terms
It's
of
cutthroat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had mail problems. People were breaking into my mailbox in a secured building. I had what I do believe is phone tapping and a couple of threats, not super serious, but yeah, I mean, one guy was a colonel. He called me up. He asked me my name. They went on about his resume, how he had a top secret clearance and did satellite mapping in Vietnam, and then basically told me what I was doing was dangerous. I mean, to me, that was a clear threat. He's like,
That
"You're
is a
barking up
clear
the wrong tree." And some people I've interviewed, I'm like, well, this person's way off the deep end. And my mom was a counselor, so we had a lot of psychology books, and I started to be able to recognize when someone has a pathology of some kind. And some people's stories just get way off the deep end. I'm like, okay, you're a nice person. I'm sure you're absolutely lovely. But this story you're telling me, no, I cannot accept this as being real.
There are some zingers out there for sure. I agree with you 100% on that.
Occasionally you talk to someone who's pretty, high level in terms of their job, perhaps. I'm like, wow, I'm talking to a Coast Guard captain here. And he, basically was very careful about what he could say and what he couldn't. Or a submarine navigator or people in the Navy. So that's kind of a big deal. One of my first interviews actually was a lieutenant colonel. And I was pretty nervous about it.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, that's a high rank.
But he ended up just basically lying through his teeth to me, saying there's nothing to UFOs. You're an idiot. They're all snake oil salesmen. You're absolutely naive, which to a certain extent I was. That was my first interview, actually. I was, 22, maybe 21. But it was a good lesson. Absolutely like, wow, okay, this guy.
Christopher, no, they do threaten you. As a matter of fact, this is going way back now, people. I've been knowing Preston a long time, but Preston had come on Wake Up USA. The week before that, I had Alfred Weber on. And Alfred decided to bust everybody on how many people may or may not be contactees. So the following week that we had Preston, and we were just talking about different cases, and I think that he had a book out at the time, and we were talking about that. And right at the end of the show, we got a phone call right as we were ending, and my producer didn't put it through. And I'm like, why didn't you put it through? He said, oh, Joe, no. They were threatening you. They were threatening Preston. They were threatening Alfred. They were saying they would work for some ops agency, and if y'all didn't stop talking about this, they wouldn't have come for y'all. And I mean, the week before that, we were talking about agendas, alien agendas. And the week you were on, I think we were talking about a particular contactee. And whoever this person was really just had lost their mind. And he said, do you think it's real? I said, did they call or did they bust into the line? Because we had a person every now and then that would just bust in the line and ask questions. So they were definitely somebody in the government. I said, no, if they're calling in, they're probably a nobody. I said, we'll keep an eye out. But I mean, they were threatening you, me. I mean, pretty much everybody had been on for those 2 or 3 weeks. And it was ridiculous. So, over the years, I've learned you got to be a little careful. You got to, I've had my wife and my son threaten. See, I don't really mind if they threaten me. I'm a big ugly with special forces in the Navy. I mean, I'm not really that scary of people, but when you call me up and you tell me, I know where your wife is, I know where your kid is, I know what they're dressed, I know what they're doing, I get a little paranoid. Matter of fact, my first coast to coast appearance I ever did, I got like 5 phone calls like that.
Wow.
Within a week, because I changed the I shouldn't say I changed it, but I redid the Betty and Barney Hill story, which made a lot of people upset. And so I got a lot of threats over it. But it was the funniest part about that whole story was, Preston, George Norrie tells me, we're in the middle of the show, he goes, you're not going to change my mind about Betty and Barney Hill. I said, well, fine, can I talk? I mean, it's my first time, I'm arrogant. And he's like, okay, we'll just go ahead. So I finish up. It's like crickets. I mean, it's like, I said, George, you okay? He's like, shit, Joe, you changed my opinion of this story. He said, I can't go around saying that. I was like, I started laughing. I said, well, you know what? I said, we'll just talk about Shag Harbor and leave this. But it did change his opinion of it. It's because it's a much better layout of what actually went on.
I mean, if you really examine it down to the bones, what you say about the Betty and Barney Hill case is probably 99% accurate.
Well, yeah, but anyway, we'll talk about that another night. It's Yes, people. It scares even me sometimes. But look at Preston's good looking, so I can't wait for the new book about Dolly to come out. That's gonna be interesting. So what do you say? Book 6 you got on this particular? How many books do you have? Actually, you got quite a few of them, don't you?
I have 32 books out. Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
that's a serious amount of writing. Trust me, people. I hang out with a lot of writers and illustrators. When I tell you 32 books is serious, it's serious. I mean, I've been
That's
with
an
some.
everyday writer right there.
Well, yeah, the only person I know that might in the field that might have more would be
Nick Redfern.
Nick Redfern, because Nick's a 9 to 5 writer.
He's a 9
I
to
love
5.
Nick. I tell
book
him one day, I
writer.
said, "How do you write?" He goes, "Well, Joe, I get up on Monday morning, I get a cup of coffee, I get something to eat, I go sit down in front of my typewriter. Okay, I'm gonna use the word typewriter.
Still uses a typewriter.
And he works till 5, and then he quits and he goes on whatever he's gonna do 9 to 5. So
Hey,
you
if
know,
you get a page per day, in 1 year you've got a book.
yeah. So what? Oh, while we're on this, what is your
He was putting
preferred?
out eight a year, so I mean that's a lot.
Yeah, he's insane. He's insane with his books, but he does so many topics, it's hard to keep up with him. So,
Yeah,
what is your
he
favorite
hits
for you to write on? Your computer, paper, typewriter? I mean,
Well, I started out before computers, really. So I had to use a regular old typewriter, but computers came along right in time. Computers are definitely the way to go. I do like to, get some notes down on paper, just because I'm old school. I like a book in my hand.
oh, I understand that. I understand that.
But the computer absolutely makes the writing job 100% easier. I'd be lost without it.
Yes, Michelle laughs at me every time I show her the stats for the show. They're sitting next to me in a notebook. I can't help it. There's some things I'm still old school about.
Yeah, I've got my notebook right here.
Man,
Wow.
There we go.
Preston, have you tried any of the talk to text ways of writing? I know when the computer first came out, they didn't have very many voice controls, but when the first ones came out, they didn't work so well. But now we have them in the cell phones. It seemed to work pretty good. You still have to go back and do some serious editing. But I was wondering if you tried any for the computer for trying to write, because I like to write and I like to read, but I'm extremely dyslexic and I can't either type or speak as fast as my brain puts the sentence together. So it usually backs up in the back of my throat, or my fingers get tied up and I type all kinds of weirdness, and I have to sit back and go, what the hell did I just write? And I have to go back. Sometimes if I'm reading a book, sometimes I have to go back several chapters because I get so lost. But when I'm writing, I'm like, I have to go back at least 2 or 3 sentences, maybe in a paragraph or 2 to remember what I wrote with all this gobbledygook. So have you tried any of those?
Yeah, I have. And in certain situations, I think it works, but I can type real fast. I'm up to about 100 words per minute.
Oh shit, he's smoking fast.
Yeah,
It's like laser fast,
something like that, but which is pretty fast. But I still, like, with being dyslexic, it's so hard to type while you're thinking because my fingers don't move as fast as the electronics in my brain or what have you. So
yeah.
Well, I'm just embarrassed. I think I can type like 25 words a minute if I'm lucky. And then half of that I got to go back and
I always
fix.
found out because I applied for a 911 dispatcher job in Montgomery County, Maryland, where I used to live. And I applied 3 times, and I was the only male to get to the psychology interview because it's for the police station. You go through, there's a lot of steps. But they said I typed 77 words a minute. And I'm like, does that suck? And they're like, no, that's actually pretty good for a dude. I'm like, well, good.
The other day I was talking with Larry Warren about you, and I didn't actually know he knew as much about you as he did, but I guess no about Preston, and because their new movie Capel Green came out, and I did all the voice stress analysis in the movie, and they used the #1 polygrapher in England to do the polygraphs. As far as I know, he's the only one out of everybody who went to that. It was at Rendlesham that actually got polygraphed and voice stress. I'm kind of a little strange about it, but we got to talking, and I said, and he said something. He said, do you know anybody that's a good writer that maybe could shadow write a book for me? I said, I know a couple of writers. I said, right offhand, I would think maybe Preston, because Preston understands the material. So you can get anybody to write that's fast, but if they don't really understand the material, it's not going to be as good a book. See, you could make suggestions. You would understand a lot of what he was talking about. The all ufology type book, so it would be much different. But he wrote Peter Robbins wrote the original book, Left at Eastgate. But somehow or another they had it fallen out, which that's none of my problem. That's their problem. But it was a good book. I mean, I'm not hating on the book or anything. It wasn't a bad. But oh, do you? I have it somewhere in here too. But if you look behind me, you'll notice. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you this. Anytime you get a new book that you want, just send it to me and it goes up here. It stays up here. I give these books away at Christmas. And so there's quite a few. You can't see these. These are Into the Stars, the Monroe Document. Of course, this is this year's Writers of the Futures book.
And over there is they're hidden. Never mind.
Yeah, and then I got some Kevin J. Anderson stuff up there. I got some.
Oh, he's awesome.
And a couple of the other famous authors I've got up there too. So they just send me stuff and I put it up there. Of course, anything that's autographed, I keep. It's going on my shelf over here. I'm building a shelf for them, but I'm trying to replenish my books from Katrina. We lost like 4,800 books at Katrina, all of them autographed. Wow. It's just, and it was a sad part because none of them actually hit the water until a couple of days after the storm. I only got this much water in my house compared to everybody else, but it was just enough moisture in the air that the book swole and popped the sides off the shelf. So, and I mean, a book this big was now, like this. So it was just one of those things. But no, I tell people all the time, because we're also doing an illustrators section too for all the different illustrators I know these days. And, I'm always looking for good books because people, and we tell people at the holidays, he said, we'll give you a book, why don't you buy a couple for your family, stuff like that, get a couple. And we usually try to bring the authors on for make 20 or 30 minutes just to, when we give away the books, just to say hi and whatever else they may have coming out at that time. I just had your boy on with, his name went right out of my head. He's helping write the Dune stories. And it's interesting. I met your boy, I call him the son of Dune. I shouldn't call him that. But anyway, it's interesting to have those kind of people around. And then Tim Powers, who is of course great, he's responsible for all the Caribbean movies, and or at least got the Caribbean thing going. So actually, he knows who you are too, by the way.
Yeah, I met him. He was here.
Yeah, that right there. See, he knew you. He knew who you were, and he was like, "Yeah, he had a really good." Yeah, he said you had a really good, and he remembered your story. You know how many stories these guys read, right? Because I mean, they're reading 12 a year plus 14 a year. Well, they're reading more than that, but there are 12 people a year win, but they're reading far more stories than that. He remembered your story. I was impressed. I was like, "Damn, do you?" He said, "Oh yeah, I remember Preston." I was like, "Damn."
I entered 46 times, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's you're not the only one, by the way, that's entered that many times. So don't feel bad or anything, because there's been a lot of others been out there. I've talked to a lot of authors,
and there appears to be a very small horse sniffing your curtains.
Yes, yeah. We were talking about that earlier. But I would have never thought that I would have got this involved with writers and illustrators in my entire. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've probably interviewed 1,800 authors in the 36 years I've been doing this. But I would have never thought I would have got involved. I actually understand what writing is now, and ladies and gentlemen, don't take that the wrong way. Before I was just a host, reading people's books and giving my opinion on it on their show, and they were telling me how they put it together. Now I actually understand what it takes to write. Some of these, they have these classes. They do a week-long seminar, basically, with probably 10 of the top writers in the United States there. And I've actually learned quite a lot. I don't know if I'll ever write a book, but I really learned a lot. Gives me a lot more respect for an author too, by the way. The process.
You have to love it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
it's
you do. So I mean, what? Oh, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think is your best book? Man.
You're asking me to choose between my babies, so I love them all. I love them all for different reasons. I do love Treasury because it's a continuous narrative. Most of my books are collections. Onboard UFO Encounters, I love that one. That's my bestseller. But I really like the one on healings. I think that's probably my most important book. It's 500 pages. It's a monster book.
Well, that is a monster
Wow,
book.
yeah.
The one on Schoolyard UFO Encounters, that one was like, just touches me. Because it's children. You know, who doesn't love kids?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're seeing UFOs all over the world, right over primary schools. Half the cases are elementary schools, primary schools. So
Yeah,
that's
I've heard of them.
favorite for sure.
I've heard a lot of cases in schools. It's always, but you know, you're when it comes down to it, you're way nicer guy than most authors. Don't get me wrong, authors. I got a lot of friends that are authors, so don't take this the wrong way, people. Preston just is. I don't know how to put this, but Preston seems to be a very laid back, very nice guy. He's very easygoing. I'm sure writing sometimes can stress anybody, but you seem to have a better way of dealing with people and with experiences, I should say. You know, you doesn't, how can I say this? You don't get all frazzed up, I guess. You know, I've met a lot of authors that are trying to write about experiences and they get all like, it's almost like they're having the experience themselves. They get antsy, jumpy. You don't seem to do that. You just seem to, okay, I'm going to write this. And, you know, I'm sure there's days you want to go, okay, why am I writing this? But still, you just seem to be very laid back when it comes down to it. And
yeah, well, I did have an attack once when I finished my book on healings and my computer broke down and I lost it all.
oh shit. Okay, I would have had a, excuse my language, I would have had oh man, I'd have been tossing the
It was a
computer
hard
out the
day.
window.
But I talk to a lot of experiencers and I only write about a small portion of them. So a lot of them just want someone to talk to, someone to hear their story. They have questions. I understand that. So, you know, that's kind of my primary goal in getting involved with this. Because when I found out this was all real, it wasn't easy. I was a skeptic. This kind of knocked me over. So I had a real hard time with it for a year or two. I mean, I really did. So
No, I can understand that.
People feel.
Well, and then you're not the first. I mean, several very big names came before you that were, you know, devout skeptics on the subject. Well, you know, I had just lost his name, but the guy who did the Close Encounters list, he's you know been on Project Blue Book, worked with the Navy and all that. Devout. I mean, he intended to completely debunk the whole thing, and then as he started researching in Project, Hynek, thank you. As soon as he started researching it, he's like, you know, more and more information came, and he's began, you know, after a while, it was like probably overwhelming it. I mean, we can't speak to him anymore. He's passed on, but it must have been the same for him as it is for you in this first couple of years. It's just like, no, it can't be true. It can't be true. And all of a sudden,
I feel
you realize that the bulk of the data out there, it obviously can't not be a falsehood.
Yeah, the poor guy, when he was investigating the Hillsdale College incident, mentioned swamp gas, just kind of in passing. He was viciously attacked. And that was, from what I understand, a low point for him. That's when he really started to, you know what? When the government tried to explain away the Levelland sightings in Texas as, you know, what do you call it, ball lightning?
Yeah,
so that's it. No, this is ridiculous. There's something.
I have seen ball lightning on 2 different occasions. It's a very rare thing to see. I've seen it form as a ball, and I saw it turn into a ball after a lightning strike hit a tree, and it ricocheted as a ball and hit my car. It was the coolest thing ever. Wow. But there's no way you would, if you've ever seen ball lightning, you could ever mistake it for a UFO. There's just no way. It looks like a plasma ball with little shots of lightning going around it, and then it dissipates.
Well, it doesn't have portholes or windows.
No portholes. You can see right through. It's like blue and white and flashing, and you can see right whatever's behind it. But it's so very bright that it's, you know, it's a natural phenomenon. There's no way you could ever mistake it for a machine.
Unless you're an
or anything that was intelligently controlled. I mean, if anything, if it moved like anything at all, it would move like a bug.
Yeah, it's funny what backbends and mental gymnastics the Blue Book intelligence officers have done to debunk sightings. There was one investigated by Raymond Fowler.
Swamp gas, ball lightning. They also used the planet Venus a lot. It was just the planet Venus. Yeah, the planet Venus does not follow you across state lines. I'm sorry.
No. 3 ladies had a craft come right over them, maybe 20, 50 feet up. One lady was so frightened she actually soiled herself. And Project Blue Book said, That's Venus. What you saw was Venus. Like, come on. Is Venus going to make you?
Venus does not sit on top of a car.
It was
Old
ridiculous.
ladies pee themselves.
I know when people first started telling me about this, I said, "You're nuts. Go see a psychologist." Oh, but Joe, I said, "No, you're not." And it was so weird because so many people would come tell me about their experience. It was just weird. And I'm like, "You're crazy. Go see a psychologist." If it would, if it wouldn't have been for some of the caliber of people who had come to me, I mean, I knew a couple of lawyers that came. Damn, my dentist telling me I'm in a chair, get my teeth cleaned, and she's telling me about being taken. I'm like, what? I'm like, I got up. I said, "Don't touch my teeth. You're scaring me." She's like, "No, Joe, I'm serious." I said, "Baby, just no. That's not real." I said, "You had a really." I said, "What were you drinking? You were smoking some? What the hell was going on?" And I really, I hate to say this, but for 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years, I was like, no. And then I started putting together how many quality people, I should say, told me about this, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to look into it. And you know what? When I started looking into it, if the Fed wouldn't have bugged me, I might have left it alone. But out of the blue, somebody asked me to do a radio show, and then out of the blue, and then all of a sudden, the amount of information we were gathering was just insane. And then I was like, and then out of the blue, here comes, well, we know where your family is. I'm like, okay, I was on your side. I'm telling these people are nuts, and you're going to threaten me. That was it. After that, I mean, they sold me on it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was their own stupidity. Yeah.
Why would you threaten someone unless there's something to it? Makes zero sense.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I would not believe you. And finally, I realized my own brother had seen a UFO. I know he's not going to lie to me. I know he's not misperceiving. There's got to be something going on. And that's when I realized that not only my brother, my sister-in-laws, good friends, people at work, people I thought I knew, turned out I didn't really know them not as well as I thought. But yeah, it's amazing when you get to interview someone who's, a pilot, perhaps. I've interviewed a few pilots.
Yeah.
And these are people who see aircraft all day long. I think they do make a better witness.
They do.
Well, yeah, they're a trained observer. I mean, policemen also the same thing. They're trained to look at special certain details when they're on the job anyway. Not necessarily when they're off the job, but when they're acting as a police officer, they've been trained. They've gone through special classes to find the details they need to make the right decisions. So exactly. They're highly
it doesn't mean they're infallible, though. I've talked to
true.
I agree with Preston. There's a couple of them that were fillable. I've talked to some well, we'll just say some officers, and they weren't exactly being honest. But one thing about the Navy is we're all taught aircraft recognition. And I was on the USS Nimitz, so first thing I was taught was aircraft recognition, along with advanced avionics, advanced electronics, and 4 years special service. So I had a pretty good idea what was flying in the skies and every now and then someone would describe something to me, and I'm like, well, that's not ours. And I talked to when I was on that's another thing that kicked me off. When I was on a Nimitz, these pilots would come in all the time and we'd be sitting in line check, and they'd be telling me about, oh, we saw this. I said, stop screwing with us. We're not believing you. Stop it. Really, just stop it. And then between that and the people, when I got out, it was kind of hard to deny it anymore. Even though I hadn't started any investigation work yet, it was hard to deny that this was some kind of real phenomena. And, sometimes I wish I would have never got into this. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I think the truth, the honest numbers are that as far as the armed forces go, and I'm not going to throw in the Space Force yet because they've only just been announced, but I would say from World War II until now, before the Space Force was announced by Trump, and they were out before Trump started them. But anyway, I believe the Navy has the #1 highest amount of UFO sightings, both because of their Navy pilots and all the personnel they have out on boats, both submersible and surface vessels, because they're the most widespread of our armed forces. They're all over the place, and they're always constantly moving on their boats. And so I think that is true.
We used to get I know a lot of pilots used to tell us about stuff. It was, but you know what? I'll tell you one of the things that really helped me is went to go watch a launch down in Florida. And I was talking to the reporter who had interviewed Neil Armstrong, and he said, no, Joe, here, I'm going to play the interview for you. So he played the actual interview with him and Neil, where Neil said there was something on the moon, and we were warned off. And I was like, wow, well, this really is real. So after that, I got to start meeting astronauts left and right. And then thanks to Stephen Bissett, I got to meet Edgar Mitchell and Buzz Aldrin at the, I think it was the 9th or 10th, it was X conference in Washington, D.C. We were having lunch at the press club, and he introduced me to him, and I told him what I was in the service, and they liked that idea, and we got to talking. And I said, well, Buzz, did we really go to the moon? Everybody says that you said we didn't go, and he starts laughing. I mean, he had this big smile on his face. And Edgar looks at him, and he said, you better not say it again. These are like two little kids going back and forth. He said, no, we really went. He said, but Joe, I got to be honest with you. He said, after about 400 or 500 people asked me that question, he said, when you could watch us land on television, he said, it was starting to irritate me. He said, it just started aggravating me. But I've interviewed Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts. I think I've interviewed about 18 total, and 28 of the shuttle astronauts, all of which, by the way, have seen something. All of which, matter of fact, they just put out. Yeah,
there's two groups: those who have seen it and those who haven't. But they all know. You know, they all know it's real.
Yeah. Well, they put out a new video of the people on the space station who have seen it, and this always cracks me up. I was listening to Edgar Mitchell giving a speech, and he goes, "Let me explain something to you people. I was trained to go find ET. I found ET, and they told me, no, you did not."
Mm-hmm.
What are you supposed to say to that? I mean, you know,
he was one of the strongest proponents for the fact that NASA is hiding stuff from us.
I don't know.
I think they are. I mean, look at that recent panel they put together. We don't have enough information to determine if there's any reality to the subject. It's like, yes, you do. What are you talking about?
Also, the fact that they, before the technology was available to do it with the computers, with, Photoshops and that kind of thing, they really pioneered Photoshopping a picture. But they had to do it with negatives and prints. So it was, it's a skill that they pretty much pioneered. And they are really, really, really good at hiding stuff.
It was Milan. That's actually Milan that pioneered. Yeah, that's the ones in charge of the pictures from Mars and stuff like that. Now, I got to go. They still won't tell me who referenced me, but in January I spent 32 hours with Congress in a skiff, and then was invited back again last month and spent 22 hours with them in a skiff. And this was so funny because the day I got there, I said, look, if you're going to really ask me 5 billion questions, I want you to bring one of the Quantico lie detectors in. He said, really? He said, you're willing to take a lie detector? I said, if I'm going to spend hours here answering questions that probably are dumb, I want to be hooked up to a lie detector because I don't want to have to repeat myself 50 times. And the funny part was, Preston, the guy comes in, he hooks me all up, and I'm all relaxed. And this chick, Nancy, who I believe is a senator, she starts asking me questions. And I'm answering them, just bam, 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 bam. She looks over. He's got to be lying. He says he's not lying. This went on, and then we break for lunch. I didn't even unhook for lunch. We stayed in there and ate. So they come back, and they're asking me more questions. And the one of the guys in the Pentagon goes, he has to be lying. He said, not only is the guy looked up, he said, not only is the polygraph saying he's telling the truth, but look at his body language. He's comfortable. He's relaxed. You can tell he's not lying to y'all. And all I was doing was reciting ICAR data. That's all I was doing. I wasn't giving my personal opinions. I was just simply going through the data that the organization had. And they were stunned. And what scared me about this is some of the top people in our country, and obviously they had no clue of what's going on. It just so it just told me right there that, yes, there probably is a Men in Black, and they are probably keeping it separate from our government because apparently our government is in the dark.
Yep, I think so. The intelligence agencies are on it, the highest levels of the military, but most folks, congressmen, senators, I don't think they're in the loop.
I agree 100%. After that, well, I had one. I think he was an admiral. At the end of the first session, he goes, "I hate you," and I can't use the language he used. He said, Joe, He said, I have to think about my family. Now, he said, I didn't believe any of this. He said, I have to listen to you. But the first day was 12 hours. He goes, I don't think you're lying. And it scares the bleep and bleep and bleep out of me that this could be really going on. And I work for the Pentagon and I don't know nothing. I mean, he used some serious language. I don't know anything about it. And I said, well, there are a lot of good researchers out there that would be willing to talk to you about it. I said, I'm not the only one out there. I said, and then I went off and gave him a list of names. I said, you can call any one of them. I said, we're not going to agree on everything, but when you talk to them, you're going to notice there's a lot of similarities to what I've been telling y'all. I said, maybe you should go ask them. Now, if they did it or not, I don't know. They never told me, but all we can do is hope. Matter of fact, I even gave them your name, Preston, so don't get mad if they come knocking on your door, man.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, they pay really well, but hey, look, they pay well. They fly you out first class. They pay really well. They put you up what used to be the Mandarin Hotel. I can't remember the name of it now, but they pay you really well for being there. And so there is a group inside the Congress and inside the Pentagon that really want to know, but for some reason can't seem to find it in our own government.
It's privatized. That's why, it's absolutely untouchable by the Freedom of Information Act. So we're in a real, blockade here, trying to get information out about the actual hardware, because that's the kind of evidence that is going to end being this being called a mystery. It's not a mystery.
I agree. A piece of tinfoil that you can crimp up in a ball and it drops on the table and then it spreads out like water back into its original form. Okay, really cool, but that doesn't spell alien. But a ship that's designed for a different body than ours, that's alien in nature.
Yeah, and the bodies. Evidence. Show us the bodies. Or the
bodies, yeah, either way. Yeah, either way.
Show us what you got.
That's the end game of disclosure for me.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk all you want. You can show me little fuzzy white blobs on video and call it whatever you want, but ultimately, I know they've got much better data than this. We know they did.
Well, they got mad at me when I said Koresh was full of you know what, but I said, wait a minute. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, this guy is telling you something. I said, he's a spy for the U.S. government, and he's giving you third-hand knowledge. Why are you settling for third? Well, I said, why are you selling for third-hand knowledge? I said, I don't care what anybody else has told you. There are real witnesses out there. You don't have to settle for third-hand knowledge. I said, there are real organizations inside of our government where you can get first-hand knowledge. I said, well, you know what? I said, why don't you go give the president a call and take a ride out to Area 51, take a look around, see what they got. I said, or for that matter, Area 52, 53, or 54. I said, why don't you just go? So the one woman stood up and said, I requested to go to Area 51. You know what I was told? I don't have the clearance to go. Yeah. I said, well, that's when you call the president and say, bleep, bleep,
that's bleep, also another definitive answer that it exists.
Well, they say it's because
Goldwater tried to get into the blue room, I think he called it, where all the alien hardware is supposedly kept, and he got a very impolite brush off.
Yes.
That was years and years ago.
I know. And it was funny to me because I still remember this. The lady goes, sir, can you tell me how you got a Class 10 security clearance? I said, baby, I've been having that since I was in the Navy. Oh, it's because of aliens. I said, it has nothing to do with extraterrestrials. I said, it has to do with what I was working on the USS Nimitz and some of the missions I was sent on. She said, that's just Class 5. I said, not for what I was doing, it wasn't. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I can't really say anything more than that because you just get me in trouble. I said, but I'm telling you, it had nothing to do with extraterrestrials. Why, you know how high that is? She said, that's high most people. I said, it's not what you think it is. And you know what's funny about that, Preston? When I got home, my first tour, I got home, they talked to ex-girlfriends when I was like 15. They talked to everybody. I mean, they talked to aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in 15 years. It was crazy. And I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what I had. I was right after Katrina. I was working. I was, at a construction company, and we were redoing these condos. And one of the guys who had just retired, he was a forensic expert for the FBI. He calls me up. He said, I ran your record. I want to talk to you. I'm like, okay. He said, why do you have such a high security clearance? And what is it for? I said, well, if I told you that, they would kill you, wouldn't they? He said, but why are you a contractor? I said, because that's what I am. I do construction for a living. He said, no. You that's crazy how high it is. I said, I said, all I can tell you is there was 3 places I worked on the USS Nimitz and 3 missions I went on that required that I had that security clearance. It has nothing to do with any aliens or anything else. I said, I wish it did. I said, I wish I could use it to go out to Area 51 and I'd be out there tomorrow. I said, but it's not what you think it is. And still to this day, when people see it on paper, they're like, you got to know. I'm like, no. Trust me, Preston, if I could get out there and find out, I'd take all y'all with me.
There's a lot of people out there with really strict NDAs.
Yeah,
it's secrets to the grave.
I mean, I really wish it had something to do with it, but I will tell you what it has helped me. Because it's so high, I got friends at Lockheed Martin and Boeing and a few other places. And because the clearance is so high, I can talk to them and they can actually tell me stuff without getting either one of us getting in trouble. That's how I redid the Texasville case. So we were out there. Peola Harris had invited me out for the all women's conference, and we went out there, having fun. And when I was there, one of the guys said, one of the witnesses said it had rivets. Well, that was the first time I had heard that. According to Ken Cherry, whoever it was this sleek thing. And not only did it have rivets, but it had chase planes. I was like, wait, what? So I called up a good friend of mine who works out at the Boeing wing facility right there in East California. And I said, sweetie, what is this? And she starts laughing. She said, Joe, it was an Aurora test. That's all it was. She said they flew it out towards George Bush's ranch. They cut up. She said, you notice the F-16s never even bothered with it. She said, because they knew what it was. They knew it was well, they knew what it was. Well, yeah, that's what the guy at the party said. He said when it hit it, he said it was 8 rows and 8 rows, which identified a ramjet engine to me. He said when he punched it, it was glowing white, glowed red, and then it went to this whitish blue. And he said it just left everything. He said it went so fast that it kind of even made the 2 chase planes kind of wobble left and right. And I was like, well, that's definitely not an alien. And that's why I called her, and she looked it up for me and just sent me some information on it. And I called MUFON and I said, well, guys, you kind of muffed the pooch on this one, because you're going to get some things right. You're going to get some things wrong. That's part of being in the field. But what bothers me is people who can't accept when something changes or there's a better explanation for something. That's when I get aggravated. But other than that,
I've interviewed some people who were absolutely sure they saw UFOs. And when I tried to point it out, I'm like, well, this is actually not, they can get pretty hostile. Which I kind of understand, but truth is truth. And
it is.
People are seeing stuff that might be reverse engineered as well, and you tell them that they don't like it. But you know what? There's a lot more reverse engineered stuff. I'll use those terms flying out there.
Well, a perfect example of that during the 80s, there was a huge flap over 2 places, over Nevada, the northern part of Nevada and California. And then over the Ohio Valley, the northern part of Ohio Valley in West Virginia, of these triangular craft. And then some of them were seen in Belgium and Europe. And people are like, oh, it's UFOs, it's UFOs. I'm like, guys, it's very intriguing. It might be, but I kept telling people, back off a little bit. It's probably one of ours because we keep seeing it. And it has lights. UFOs don't need lights.
Not like that anyway.
They'll use them. They definitely use them.
They do use them.
It turns out that it was the F-117 stealth fighter when they unveiled it during the 1993 Desert Storm.
Everybody and Mama thought that thing was a UFO flying all over Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico. They got so many UFO reports over that plane. It was just kind of funny.
Yeah, well, Michael Schratt, he's a researcher I'm sure you've heard of. He really opened up my eyes on how much of this stuff is our own. It's more than I thought, for sure.
I believe
the powers that be and the special access programs that are doing these, unusual aircraft, they encourage that because it takes eyes away from where they're doing the actual work. So where the planes are being built and constructed, people aren't, researching that as much because it's not flying around over your head. But you see an unusual airplane, it's automatically an alien. So they're like, oh, good. We don't have to worry about it now. They can keep flying it without.
It certainly doesn't explain the majority of the reports in my mind. Because when these things land and little guys come out and people are being pulled on board and all this stuff.
Doesn't quite account for everything, but yeah.
You get some explanations that turn out to be ours and some that are not. I mean, way back when I first got in this field, had been doing TR3Bs. We'd been writing about them and stuff. And I get this phone call. They said, this is Senator McDonald's office. Now, he was the ran the appropriations committee for all the big projects, all the military projects. And I'm like, whatever. And I hung up. I'm like, this guy's not calling me. He said, bullshit. Excuse my language. A couple of days later, I get another phone call. I said, what? I said, what did this guy don't want to talk to me? Click. About a week later, I get a picture of his driver's license and his congressional ID with his address scratched out. I'm like, okay, whatever. Still, I ignored it. Come on, really? What's the odds of somebody like that wanting to talk to me? I mean, I was new to the field, barely 6 or 7 years in. I was specializing in craft like TR3Bs, looking for stuff that was ours that could explain some of this stuff. Man, one morning, somebody knocks at my door, open the door. There's 2 guys in black suits and a black nimble. I'm like, oh, shit, Preston. What did I do? I done something. They come for me, man. It scared the bejesus out of me. He said, just calm down, walk to the left. I said, dude, I ain't going with you to the limo. You can forget it. I'm not going nowhere around it. So the guy rolls down the window, he looks, and I said, well, it looks like he might walk over. We went and he drove around and had lunch in the car, which was nice to be rich like that. And he starts talking to me. He tells me about what he's seen. So he's driving through New Mexico. He said he saw this weird black Chevron thing flew over his car and even shook his car. He said, what kind of alien is that? And I started laughing. He said, why is it so funny? I said, it was a TR3B. I said, did they have 3 globes glowing? I said, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. He's like, yeah. I said, that's ours. He said, Joe, I'm in charge of all top secret money. He said, it's not ours. I'm telling you what, somebody's messing with you, buddy, because it's ours. So he said, well, if I ever find out, I'll let you know. So 6 months goes, I ain't heard nothing from him. I figured, oh, whatever. And then I get a phone call. He said, I'm sending you a vanilla envelope, which I still have, by the way. It's a complete schematic layout of the TR3B. He come unglued when he found out I was ours. He started pulling funding from people left. I was like, you better stop that. You're going to get you killed, me killed, and whoever else was involved in this. He said, no, this is not going to happen on my watch without me knowing about it. And then I noticed a couple of years later, he just suddenly passed away. I guess, he started pulling too much funding. But I still have it, and they never seem to, I guess, because they know I'm never going to make it public, but it was nice to actually see the damn thing was actually real. And there was actually some evidence for it. That was kind of nice. But, it's just, you never know what's real and what's not until you really get some real good evidence. The TR3Bs I knew were ours. The Auroras are ours. There's at least a dozen craft we're playing with that are ours. It's like the new 47 that's flying right now.
The X-47, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beast. And if you see it upside down, it looks like some kind of weird alien craft. It doesn't look like a plane. It's what it looks like, but it's ours.
It's a drone. It's a drone too.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah. Well, some of them are, some of them aren't. They kind of decided not to go to drone because they're having problems with some of the drone equipment. The operations are going to make it manned, but still, these are things far beyond anything flying around on the planet right now. It's beastified stuff, but it's ours. But then there's this stuff
technology we see in the public arena is primitive compared to what they have.
And that's the truth.
I mean,
think about the X-117.
Very seriously. I mean, the amount of money and time and effort that's being thrown towards this that we don't even see.
That's it, too.
Well,
it's like the X-117. Nobody even knew it existed until it was time to go to war. It made its debut in Desert Storm. That's when it made its debut. So it's basically flying around New Mexico and Nevada doing its thing.
And listen, this is the funny thing. I was a model builder back then. I was mostly building like Star Trek, Enterprise spaceships. But I was always in the model shops, and they had 2 or 3 different models of the YF-117, and one of the models was, and I believe it was made by Revell. It was the exact copy of Buck Rogers' Space Fighter, but molded in black plastic.
It's
they actually literally thought the model that was used for a TV show was this thing flying over our space. It wasn't. So it was kind of funny.
And think about it. We used it to wipe out Iraq, and now it's considered antiquated technology.
Yeah. It was antiquated at the time that it came out. They had,
for what the government had,
I think the concepts began in 1968 or 69. They had the first flying models in 73. They were
first
flying over
prototype.
the U.S. for until at least 1993. So yeah,
Well, it's like the 47 we were just talking about. They've been flying now for 7 years, and we're just getting to hear about them now. And that's only because we plan on using them for something. Yeah.
Yeah, but the F-117 stayed hidden for 30, 40 years. I mean, it was only just rumors about it. And like I said, the 3 different model kits that came out, none of them look like the actual final kit or the final actual thing. Not one of them.
They're still not as advanced as the ETs, though, because when you hear
Oh,
people
no.
describing taken on board and the room changes size, or it's bigger on the inside than the outside.
It's like the TARDIS, yeah.
We
The F-117 is they've actually when it, most of it was declassified. They say it's a brick. It's a flying brick. If any one of the computers that control the avionics in that goes out, and it has several backups, if any of them and its backups go all the way out, the thing will not fly. Without the computer controls, it cannot fly.
Yeah, it's fly by wire is what
It's
it is.
It's worthless. It was back then. It is now.
But see what Preston was saying. If I had $1 for every person, every gray contact that told me, oh, the wall shifted. Sometimes something would come out of the wall. Sometimes something would come out the floor and raise up. A lot of them would tell me they'd be standing there, and this thing would, like a bubble, would come out, and then it would create a table. And then the table would come a bubble, and then they would lay you on there, and then it would completely cover you, even your face. And then the wall would open up and stuff would come out of the wall. I mean, this thing is creating things as it needs it. It creates rooms as it needs it. I mean, this is technology. We're nowhere near around this yet.
No seams, no rivets, nothing like that. Indirect lighting, that's another thing that's really amazing how people describe this. Like no light, there's no lights in there, but it's all lit up.
Rooms lit up with no visible source.
It's like the walls or the floors glow. It's very advanced, whatever it is. That's
quite a few people say.
Yeah, the gray, from what I understand, from all the years we've been doing this, that the gray ships are actually alive. And when the grays get in board, they kind of meld with the ship, usually 3 or more, meld with the ship. The ship can create its own food, which they call it's a blue plasma, which the grays can actually eat, which is kind of funny because the grays probably aren't actually gray. So when they absorb this plasma, it gives them a much more like an electric blue color. And then as it fades out, it changes color to like almost like a translucent gray color. It's the more I hear about this stuff, the more I'm thinking this is just so much more advanced than any. I don't even think we have a concept for this yet. It's kind of scary at the same time when you think about a ship that you can meld in with. I mean, that you can be part of. So there's no buttons to push. There's none of that. Whatever the gray thinks the ship does.
Yeah, that's really funny when people are taken on board and they're expecting to see all kinds of equipment. And there's really nothing in there, but there's often a central column that, understand that we've, have some of these craft, and some of them we can't even get inside. And when we do, there's no real engine there. There's no steering wheel. There's nothing.
Yeah,
they're flying psychically.
And that's the whole thing about them. I mean, give us another, I don't know, 100, 500 years. I don't know, maybe 1,000 years. I have no idea.
More than that, even.
I mean,
a million might do it.
Yeah, you're probably right. A million probably would do it. Now when I hear them talk about like a human ship or a reptilian type ship, they all seem to be switch and click. Let me explain something, people. When I say switch and click, I don't actually mean switch and click like you see in like one of our ships. First off, there's no wiring anywhere. And it's not really switches. They're also telepathic. It's just they're not quite to the technology that the grays are, but they're working on it. I don't know. I mean, these are technologies that are so far beyond us. I just and we're gonna go try to start a war with them. Give me a break, people. How stupid can we be?
Yeah, we are coming up on an hour. Did you want to do a break or?
Yeah, we're gonna skip it because we started late. Preston's well worth skipping the break.
Yeah, good.
It's well, when we got good guests on, I don't like to waste time on stuff like that. When we got to some of them other kind of guests, I'm always breaking this, breaking the. Hey, Leah, what you doing, sweetie? Now that's a gray.
Speaking my language.
She's a gray. Just so y'all know, just don't offend her because she might melt us all. So
I'm glad to hear that this is the topic being spoken about.
Yes, well, Preston's like us. He's been doing research for a long time. So it's one of the things that's hard on me, though, Preston. I don't know how you feel about this, but so a lot of time I get these, how can I say this politely? Like, I don't want to call them youngins because they're not always young. We'll just call them newbies. How's that? And they're going to come in and tell me all this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, so I've been doing this for 41 years. I might know a little bit more than you think I do about this subject. And I said, I got a lot of cases on file. So we got 60,000 members with 124,000 cases. I said, we might know just a tad bit about this. Plus, we're friends with a lot of other major researchers in the field. I'm thinking, but then they're going to argue with you about it anyway. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
Some of them have a real, well, they're high profile, I guess, and they're all over TV, and they're talking about
they are.
Like, you know what, you're kind of you just entered this field.
Yeah, you're just an idiot. But I try to be nice because, as I asked it, I've been doing a lot of lectures lately, and don't get me wrong, I like doing lectures, but sometimes I'll get these questions, and I'm looking at the person like, you don't really expect me to answer that, right? And they're like, well, yeah, I do. So the guy goes, well, I hear there's 85 ships that we have. I said, you're telling me we've got 85 gray ships? I said, no, I don't think so. So we may have one or two that they let us keep just to screw with our brain. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, a gray can take you from anywhere, no matter where you are. They can take your car, your house, whatever the hell they want to, without any real effort. I said, so if we do have their craft, which I do believe we have their craft, and I even think we have a few of their bodies, I said, because they're trying to help us dumb humans learn. Now, they know damn good well we're not going to figure out this craft, but still they're allowing us to at least attempt to learn. And I said, as far as their bodies go, I guess they don't feel like there's any real harm we can do to them, so they allow us to keep them. Because I imagine if they didn't want to, they would just come in and zap them and take them away. And that would be the end of that. Or they would just level the whole place where they are, which they don't do. So I'm thinking
well,
they
if they had
learn.
done that, and they were originally they weren't at Area 51 or Section 4 on Papoose Lake. They stored some of that stuff initially from 47 until 58 when it was turned into Area 51. Most of that was kept at Wright-Patterson in Ohio. So had they destroyed that, a lot of people would have seen it.
No, I don't think they would have killed. They would have just blamed it on terrorists.
And Area 51, and they did that. It might have gone, a little differently. They might have been able to destroy that information and data without too many humans seeing it.
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there to learn about. I'll tell you that much.
I think it's more than just a few craft, Joe.
Well, look, I don't argue. I don't know.
So I've been researching this at least also as long as Joe, 40 plus years, and my guesstimations from the data I've collected from all those years is somewhere on the order of 9 to 15 different craft. But we do not have any of the living type spacecraft that the Greys have. We have nuts and bolts mechanical devices.
Well, I don't know when it comes down to it. So let's look at Roswell for a minute.
Well,
so
wouldn't the nuts and bolts crafts be human made?
No, they would be human alien made or reptilian made. They wouldn't be gray made though, because grays don't use nuts and bolts.
Well, if they've got rivets, yeah, you can bet it's reverse engineered. But
yeah, well, no, this isn't a rivet craft.
Visible outside hull panels, like our original fighter craft, like the F-16s and the F-109s and all the older ones. If you see visible like lines and metal panels, it's definitely not advanced.
Yeah, well, when you hear people talk about reptilian craft or human craft, they're one piece. They're molded out of something.
Yeah,
and the grays are one piece, but it's grown, so it's a little different. The other two are molded from something, but what it comes down to, like at Roswell, people are, well, it cracked. Well, no, that's not true. What cracked up at Roswell is probably an escape craft. So the craft we had at Roswell wasn't from a crash that we got. It was from the Germans. It was given to the Germans.
And
von Baum admitted to it. Yeah,
and
Werner von Braun.
It looked more like the X-47 looks now. Is how the original.
Werner von Braun admitted that in 1911 we were given a craft, and we tried to replicate it from 1911 to 1917. And there's lots of renditions of it. There's planes that look like it. There's tanks that look like it. There's boats that look like it. But they said we were given that crap. And Hitler talks about it in the book Mein Kampf about these white-haired angels with these big heads that would come talk to him. Almost an identical description of what people say the human aliens look like.
Tall whites.
And we know from the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and the Nazcans that their heads were elongated. They were much bigger than ours. They went backwards, and there's actually lots of pictures of them. The Egyptians have lots of pictures of them. The Nazcans were boarding their kids to look like them.
So the brain size of the elongated skulls is somewhere on the order of 2.5 to 3 times our brain capacity. No amount of headboarding is going to change the capacity of a human brain. It just make the kids head longer. That's all it does.
Yeah. So there was lots of descriptions just all around our planet. So it does look like there was a race here like that looked like that. And Hitler pretty much was pretty strict about what he was writing. So it was kind of strange. And he talked about it in other writings that Wernher von Braun had released about a craft that was given to him from the previous regime. And as far as he was concerned, it was a gift. People don't remember, but people forget. But at the turn of that century, Germany was by far the most advanced country on the planet. They were way more advanced than we were.
They started both world wars.
So, they were way, way more advanced than we were. So if you were to give somebody a gift, it wouldn't have been the United States. It wouldn't have been the Russians. It would have been the Germans. And it seems like that's what actually happened. And then Wernher von Braun, in several of his writings, talked about this craft that had been given to him to try to work backwards. They just never could figure out how to do it. Actually, from what they said, they couldn't even get in the damn thing. So I don't know. We got writings about it, but is it true? Is it made up? That's anybody's guess.
The disinformation in this field is horrendous.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
Very difficult to sift through, but no, I do think that the Roswell craft, this is my assessment, was not ours. Extraterrestrial in origin. I'm coming at this from not an angle of having done extensive research into the black projects, but from a contactee angle. People have been told. I've interviewed a number of contactees who were told directly by the ETs that yes, this was extraterrestrial.
It was an extraterrestrial. No, I agree with you, but it wasn't. It didn't actually crash. Let me put it this way: the aliens aren't the ones that crashed in Roswell. We were the ones that crashed in Roswell, and there's lots of evidence to that as well. So you retrieved 4 bodies at Mac Brazel's and what looked to be like aluminum. There's no alien craft advanced enough to fly through deep space when it hit the ground on a skid like that was going to break up. That could only have been like an escape pod or maybe a shuttlecraft. There's no full main craft, especially one that's alive. It's not going to break up like that. And to begin with, an alive craft wouldn't have those pieces in it. There wouldn't have been those kind of pieces in it. That's a different kind of craft.
When it comes to it being called the Roswell incident, it actually happened a couple hours outside of Roswell.
Yes, it happened in Corona.
And so the reason it's called the Roswell incident is because the pieces and some of the recovered being bodies that were brought to the Roswell Air Force Base, right?
Well, what Mac Brazel's ranch was right there, but everything they showed recovered from Mac Brazel's ranch wouldn't have come from a living craft. And the craft that was found in Corona, or where was it? The one where the Boy Scouts actually reported seeing it, the dad and the 2 scouts had actually reported seeing it, was an intact craft. So something there's just not making sense. There's something not adding up. It wasn't ours for sure. It was definitely alien. There's no doubt about it.
But it all went to the Air Force Base, didn't it? That's where a lot of the stuff was held and researched after the crash.
The bulk of the material was taken to Wright-Patterson immediately after, and some of it was taken to the Pentagon, Washington D.C. But the thing is that there were actual 3 crash sites surrounding the area of Roswell. One of them was on, and I'm not sure which of the bases. It was either White Sands or the Sandia Laboratories property and it was addressed immediately. So that's why it took 3 or 4 or 5 days for the military to get to Mac Brazel's site, because they had 2 other sites to get to before Mac
And
Brazel's.
let's not forget what our janitor said. His sports model was completely intact. There was no damage to it whatsoever.
And
No damage to it.
Not living.
That's what Bob Lazar said. The craft was completely intact with no damage.
Yeah, what frustrates me about this subject is here we have the evidence that is the end game. It's all bets are off. You know what it is, but it's all anecdotal testimony. All of it.
You're 100% true about that.
So, but I think there's enough of it to say that this is 100% real. It's not just 10 or 20 people. There's hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of people who've been involved in these kinds of incidents. So I don't think it's just Roswell by any means.
I don't either.
I know that everyone has everyone has their story that may or may not connect them to that specific incident. But I kind of have my own too, where my uncle worked at that Air Force base, and on his deathbed, he called me to tell me, Leah, just so you know, you're not crazy. Don't let anyone ever make you feel that way. What you experienced was not your imagination. And he saw things that he took to his grave.
It's strange. Our country director, our national director, DeAndrew, who rest in peace now, has passed away. She knew the nurse who worked at Roswell when this happened. And I remember her and Stanton Friedman had gotten to a little stiff one night on the show, on a different show than this. And they were going back and forth, and Stanton stopped for a minute because she said her name and some other credentials. He said, well, you really did know her, did you? He said, yes. So then after that, they became best buddies because he wanted to know what she knew about, the collection of the bodies and what was done to the bodies, which was interesting because at that point I knew this much about Roswell, literally this much about Roswell. And as much as I do, I try to stay away from Roswell as much as possible because until we can get our hands on something,
until we get the actual true what really happened, it's all nothing but speculation.
All the witnesses are dead now.
Well, A and B, some of the latest data from Don Schmidt and a few others, and I have one of his books here. Let me put my camera back on. Actually, he signed this book for me. His most recent idea is that Joe doesn't agree with this. I don't necessarily agree with it yet, but I'm just reporting for Don Schmidt. He says that General Twining and General Ramey were aware of a UFO flap over White Sands and Alamogordo, which was bothering the military bases over there. So allegedly, Don Schmidt says that these 2 generals decided to lure the UFOs back by doing some more missiles tests with nuclear devices to lure the UFOs nearby, and then that they were going to focus a new targeting radar on them to see what if any effects had on their craft. And they say that allegedly, once they focused this new targeting radar, which all of our missiles have in them now, it interfered with either something with the craft's ability to negate gravity. They're not sure, but whatever it is, something interfered with the craft, and then 3 of the craft they had over those bases crashed. One on either White Sands or Sandia Laboratories property, the other one in New Mexico, and I forget the actual site on that one. That might be the Corona crash. And then the third one is the Arroyo just outside of Roswell, and the debris site on Mac Brazel's ranch. Those 4 debris sites. So I don't know that that's really true or not. I'd be honest to hear your opinion on that, Preston, if you ever heard this, but it's an intriguing theory that Generals Twining and Ramey, the 2 generals involved with the aftermath of the Roswell case, that later on that they would have said that they made this a trap for UFOs, and that's how we got that craft.
Yeah, I have heard this theory. I'm not sure I subscribe to it. that our radar interferes with their navigation systems.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do think, I mean, Roswell has about 100 books on that case alone. I'm not kidding.
Oh, more than
I
that.
stopped at about 10. You know, I'm like, okay, this is
more like 600 or 700 books on that subject. to be
Oh,
honest
that's
with you.
ridiculous. But no, because my problem was the first time somebody told me that, I said, wait a minute. These ships fly in deep space where there's way more powerful radar than anything we can produce here on Earth. I'm thinking they get hit with that kind of stuff all
Those
the time.
radars out there are natural radars coming from planets and
No, it's the
quasars
same,
and
but it's the
whatnot.
same
It's not
type of
focused-
radar.
It's not a focused beam. I mean, it's not like, you know.
No, but they're flying through stuff on a magnitude of 100 times more powerful than that.
Yeah.
If that's not knocking them down, this ain't going to knock them down.
But
that's a personal thing.
They probably prepare their ships with devices to counteract those things. They're not looking at like, you know, a small, like, you know, low tech.
Just like our planes are always focused for fight. I imagine theirs are too. I doubt you're going to catch them off guard like that because the ship's already probably in that way.
But what
and
about
since
the
they can read
of low tech
and since they're telepathic and they were reading the guy's minds on the ground, I'm pretty sure they knew before they even shot.
That's possible too.
This is
That's
why,
possible too. But I still throw
I'm
out
with
the
you on this.
idea of low tech versus high tech. I mean, they do this in Stargate. They have I think it's a shield they're trying to get through, and anything moving fast is stopped by
Dolly's like, let me in.
They take a bow and arrow and they shoot through this energy field because the tech is slower and it is able to destroy whatever that energy field was. So I do suppose that it's possible that a low tech could eventually affect a high tech.
You can throw a wrench at a helicopter and, you know, bring it down. You hit it.
Yeah,
in the right
exactly.
place,
So that's another good example. Thank you. Yeah. See.
But you know, I don't know. Like Joe says, these beings are quite a bit more advanced, and this is why I don't find it credible that we're shooting them down. Because they know before you're going to press the button.
Russians claim to have shot one down with a MiG 17 back in the 60s.
So let's look at this a different way. So the Gray, you just jumped in your MiG and the Gray says, "Oh wait, I'm going to make him shoot himself in the head with his pistol." There's just no way on a Gray ship you're going to be able to do that. They're going to know long before you pull the trigger.
What if it wasn't a Gray ship?
Well, if it's somebody else's, it's different. But even they're telepathic, so I don't know.
Maybe not to the degree of the Greys. I think the Greys have the power over. That's why the others are bow down to them, because they don't have the same brain power.
Well, they definitely don't have the same brain power.
All ETs are almost universally telepathic.
Yeah, as far as I know, all the ones we've
but
ever
to
talked
what
about.
degree? One's got to be more powerful than another. That's why the Greys.
I'm sure the Greys probably are more powerful, but still, it's one of those things that you do. Well, you know, people always want to, you know. Somebody asked me just the other day, and I'll put this to Preston. What do you think is the best case that's out there for the proof of extraterrestrials? I was kind of like, I don't really know. I really just couldn't pick a case. Can you, Preston? I mean, I couldn't just pick one case. It just wasn't.
Yeah, there's a few vague pictures of alien handprints on people's bodies and things like that. But I mean, there's so little of that data.
Right. It's not one case. You know, one case can be, you know, dismissed as a, you know, an outlier, perhaps. 10 cases, 100 cases. But we're looking at tens of thousands of cases of people who've been taken on board. We've had so many cases well documented with ancillary and circumstantial and hard evidence of all different kinds.
Yep.
It's the preponderance of cases that really argue, I think, for the veracity of extraterrestrial visitations.
Mm-hmm.
People have all these different theories, from Vallee's theory, which is, I don't subscribe to it. I think it's highly speculative and not based on any factual data. Whereas the extraterrestrial explanation is certainly favored by researchers who directly focus on cases of people who are being taken on board or seeing ETs face to face, like Hopkins and Jacobs, and Barbara Lamb, and John Mack, and Edith Fiore, Kathleen Martin,
Leah Dunbar.
Joe Montaldo.
If you talk to contactees, they will tell you 90% of the time, 95, even more, they believe they're dealing with extraterrestrials, people like us. So it's the huge number of cases in my mind. I do have cases personally that were like, wow, this is a really good case. Like one lady took her son to the dentist and he has an implant in his mouth and she sent me the x-rays. And I sent them to doctors, and yeah, that's a foreign body. This looks metallic. Multiple X-rays. Which, they're having full-on encounters. This is good evidence. Dr. Lear, God bless him, did some really groundbreaking work.
Yeah, he did. It's there's a regular contactee. What's his name? Jacob Wilcox. He was the first black contactee to ever come forward. He called me up one night because every time he walked past a scanner in a store, it would trigger a code. So every time he'd go see what the codes meant different things. It almost made him crazy. So he called me one night. This is 4 or 5 years later. He goes, "Joe, can you pull all of my stuff? I can't. I just can't deal with it anymore." Katarina Wilson did that too. Katarina, who was very famous in the field, her and I did, probably more than 50 interviews, and not just radio interviews. We did a lot of personal interviews to see what was going on. And she had excellent evidence, especially when it came to military abduction evidence. But she called me one night and asked me, could I please take him down? That it was the hatred was driving her crazy. There were so many people who were giving her
She just wanted to pull out, which I get.
I
still
do.
A very hostile climate in this field.
Oh yeah.
And most people are not going to talk. This is why people will say, "Oh, it's rare." No, this is far more common than people realize.
Yes,
the vast
it is.
majority are not going to talk about it.
It's really kind of a shame that so many of these people. Good friend of mine who had been talking about her contacts for a long time. She was an apartment manager making really good money, and they had a HO meeting, and somebody had found out about it, and they asked her to step down because they thought she was crazy because she had seen aliens. And she sued and won, but it didn't really matter. Her reputation was destroyed after that. She wasn't going to get any work in that town doing that anymore, which was just sad because she was legit. She'd been polygraphed, voice stress. She'd been through the whole ringer, and still nobody cared.
Dennis Kucinich went on air and said, "Oh yeah, I've seen a UFO at Shirley MacLaine's house." That was the end of his.
Oh yeah, that was it. That was the end of his career. It's a shame that there are so many people now that have come forward, not just in the United States, all around the world, and still, the majority of the planet's just not willing to accept it. And I don't understand why.
It's
kind of my mind too.
Right now.
But,
you're probably right. It is probably evening out a little now.
As Preston pointed out, with just the abduction research that's been going on since at least 61 with the Betty and Barney Hill case, there is a lot of data. But if you ignore that data and just take the old, really hard to fake proven photos of UFOs, not top secret U.S. craft, alien craft. The good Billy Myers photos are some pretty crisp and clear ones, but that enough is evidence enough. In most courts in this planet, it doesn't matter what country you go to, if you had that kind of evidence, just that photographic evidence, you'd have a winning case. But the people on the planet are like, yeah, it's bullshit. They just can't. They can't fathom it. I don't know.
Photograph. That's another one that's never. When people have tried to debunk some of these really great early photographic cases, there's a lot of them.
Like the very first one is of a cigar against a big white puffy cumulus cloud, and you can see 3 nodules sitting on it, 3 saucers sitting on it, and it's not really clear, but it's fairly clear and not. It's so far away you don't get a lot of detail, but it's the first picture of one. It's 18 something others, 1890 something. It's fantastic. Have you seen it?
I'm not sure. I probably have.
Well, you probably have. It's one of them. It's one of those.
The radar evidence, the landing trace evidence, the implant removal evidence, angel hair. A lot of people aren't aware of angel hair, but this is a substance that is apparently somehow reacting to the plasma field surrounding these craft, reacting with our atmosphere, perhaps. It's not fully understood. But there's 100, 200 cases of this.
Yeah, I've heard it.
It's been collected and analyzed in laboratories. This is physical evidence that they cannot fully explain.
It's strange. There's so many cases that there actually is some type of evidence left behind, or there's some type of evidence in the body. And still, well, look at look at the UFO hunter. Oh man, why did his name go out of my head? No, wait, say that again. Who you said?
Daryl Sims.
No, yeah, no, is that him? Is that him, Daryl Sims? The one from Texas, is that him? Okay.
Yep.
Him and his partner used to collect implants. And I'm thinking one day, him and I are talking, and I'm like, dude, how many times have you had something removed from your body? And he's talking about his kid, and he's talking about other stuff. And he's like, and, he said, we've taken so many implants from people that it's hard for anybody to deny, but yet they still deny it. I'm like,
Yeah, I have seen that one.
This is amazing. Now let me zoom in. You can see from there. There's a nodule there, and a nodule there. Oh, that is zoomed in. But did you see it? There is one. I don't do no. I guess this is the blurry one. But that is the first picture of a UFO. And let me see, what was the year that it came in? I'll have to get that for you. It's not on this, but it's 1800s.
Yeah, I like the early photographs before Photoshop. And they've been around since before Photoshop. You know what I mean? Publicized, I mean.
Yeah, no, a lot of the 40s, 50s, 60s pictures, even 70s pictures are better because, well, really, there is no Photoshop. And people back then, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, probably had just a little bit more integrity than they do today. Today, it's more about let's get some clicks than it is to actually having and now we got AI. God help us.
Yeah,
you know what's going to come out now. It just bothers me.
So wow, okay. It was taken at Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire in 1870.
Wow, 1870. Cameras were just invented practically. Wow.
This is a daguerreotype or a tintype, so it is probably very impossible to fake.
It would have been hard to fake, that's for sure.
I have a minor degree in photography. I'm no expert, but I can tell you that it is impossible to fake something from a piece. You take a piece of metal with some noxious chemicals, and you flash it with some really intense light really fast, and those chemicals are burnt into that metal. It's impossible to fake unless you carve that. You carve images in that metal before you put chemicals on it. It's virtually impossible to fake. Why would you do it?
It always annoys me when people say there's no evidence, because the photographic evidence is
there's mountains of it. Mountains. It's just it boggles my mind that people just can't fathom that. Just that data alone. And then there's the film, not video, celluloid
and
film.
The physiological evidence as well. I did a whole book on healing cases. And I can tell you John Mack has them, David Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, Edith Fiore, Barbara Lamb, Tim Beckley, Timothy Good. They all have healing
People
cases.
Healed from certain death illnesses. The ones that intrigue me are the ones of women have been to their gynecologist. They have been proven to be pregnant by chemical tests and secondary signs, swelling of the belly, swelling of the breast, etc. And then the fetus is taken away, and the secondary signs are immediately gone. No skin stretching, no lactation in the breast, no expansion of the uterus, none of that. None of those things. The secondary signs are shown, and then the internal signs, the baby's gone. Those are really spooky.
Well, we got cases of where they had cancer, then the cancer's gone.
Yeah.
There's
two.
Yep. Jim Schaefer, he sent me his medical records. He was healed of a cancerous tumor on his neck. And one lady, she was cured of Chagas disease. You can't fake this. Chris Bledsoe, cured of Crohn's disease.
There's been a lot of it, but because nobody wants to believe the individual, if it was just one person, I'd say, okay, you know what? Maybe they're lying. 2 people, 3 people, you start getting to 50, 100, 500 people
worldwide with no connection.
It's too many people at this point to say, okay, they're lying. So instead of saying they're lying, they just need to launch an investigation. Now, we'll tell you this: when I got lucky enough to go spend some time in D.C., it does seem like the Congress wants to know. The problem is they can't get any information.
can't. We can't.
It's almost like whoever's the powers ought to be that controls this are like, no, you don't have the clearance. You're not going to find out. It's not for you to know. And then they got mad at me one night because I said, well, as far as ET is concerned, they probably already disclosed to everybody they want to disclose to. If anybody else finds out, that's fine. But I don't think they really care if the general public knows. I think
ET's have done their part for sure. I mean,
yeah.
We have 1 million cases documented.
That's what I'm saying. It's insane.
How many do you need? It's insane. Yeah, absolutely, it's insane.
Yeah, well, every
contactee has evidence. Dolly Safran has moving films. She has photographs.
Yeah.
She showed me her medical evidence of implants and more.
And there's lots of people like that, Dolly, not to take away from you, baby. But there's lots of people out there like that. And it's just, we're at a point now, 2025, that this shouldn't be still in the closet.
Well, and quite honestly, in 1969, if the rumor is true that Neil Armstrong was given a warning by ETs to not return to the moon on that first landing, it's a criminal act that NASA and the U.S. government did not disclose that to the world. Now, if that was our first contact with an actual alien species, that's a historical human, milestone, for one, and for two, to hide that and to violently hide that for the last, 70 years plus now, going back to Roswell. That's part of why this disclosure is going to be such a fight with the U.S. government.
And
they
it
don't
was
want
funny.
everyone to know their involvement in it.
It was funny that
some lies, the cover up. They've lied so long, they've now become not credible. We're not looking to our government for answers anymore because they're liars.
That's true. Just look. All you have to do, people, you don't have to look at the alien thing. Just look at our last group of elections. Look at the press. Look at the government. Nobody trusts them. Nobody trusts the legacy media anymore. Nobody.
How
does.
much trillions of
Half
dollars?
the people don't even get their news from there anymore.
Yeah,
which is
you'd be
scary.
cool if you did, because
Well, you're right. It's garbage. No, Gene, it doesn't matter what news you watch. It could be the red side. It could be the blue side. You're mostly getting garbage. I don't want to sound like that. You're mostly getting garbage. What do you mean? Well, I do have a news show, and it does have 5 million listeners, but we do news a little bit differently. We just do the news. First hour, we do the news, and y'all can decide what you want to think. Second hour, we'll talk about those links, but we're not telling you it's this, or this. You have to judge the news for what it is. All right. We're just giving you the data, and you can decide what you think it is, because really true. I don't know any more than you do. Yeah. Somebody's seen a UFO. Somebody blew something up. I know about as much as you do. So it's better to, you know what? Let me put it this way. The people of the world and the people of the United States aren't ignorant. I know we're treated like we're children, but we're really not. And it really hacks me off sometimes when I see this. So the world needs to change. And I see more and more people trying to push this out. And hopefully, you know what it is? I guarantee you there are people in the military and in this House and the Senate that are contactees.
Oh yeah,
or
every single level of society.
Yes, and I'm thinking of you people. Eventually maybe they'll pop out and say, you know what, right in the middle of some idiots saying they're not going. You know what? Well, guess what? I was taking. You calling me a liar? What do you mean Donald Trump's an alien? Well, he might be. I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, we had 46 presidents. One of them, at least, by statistically speaking, has got to be a contactee.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. What do you mean, Kennedy? Well, he could have been. I mean, we don't know. That's the problem. We don't really know who it was, and we don't know what they were doing in that position. But we just know they were being taken. Was the aliens changing them? I don't think so. I think the aliens do like they do with everybody. They do their thing that they do with everybody. And to be frank about this, each contactee is handled differently, because some contactees aren't as scared and they're more willing to be part of what goes on. Some are way more scared and are not really. They're kind of limited to what they can do and what they can see. Yeah. And it's a
powerful role.
Yeah, it does. It plays a powerful role. So, I mean, that's just where it is, guys. We don't have any control over that. Extraterrestrials do. Well, I mean, I'm not going to let some crazy person screaming and ranting and running around my spaceship anywhere near anything that's important. I'm going to keep them. We're going to put them in a cafeteria. We're going to have one of them cafeterias come out the wall, and we're going to sit them right there. Don't be a smart ass, people. It's when it comes right down to it, there's plenty enough evidence to make this real. There's been lots of television shows, lots of investigation shows. I mean, I've been on Ancient Aliens a half a dozen times talking about
It's
this.
going to be fake too, but
You
it's
know,
hard.
I've been on Coast talking. I know Preston's been on Coast to Coast and Ancient Aliens. I mean, the thing of it is there's good people out there talking about good stuff, but still somebody somewhere, I guess we'll call it the government, is keeping everything at arm's length.
Yeah, the
They don't
cover up
want
is
you to
not
know.
over. It's not done by any means. We're still
No,
in
it's
the
not.
thick of it. But truth is truth. And I think it's inviolable. You cannot destroy it. You can lie about it. You can cover it up. You can ignore it. You can alter it. But you will never be able to destroy it. And I think
And
what
that's
we're
the truth.
seeing is just a growing, basically a wave of truth sweeping over.
Yeah,
When
it's like
ideas come, it's gonna come out sooner or later.
so. I sent.
We have talked about that, and I think I agree with you, Preston, and I think Joe and I agree on this, that disclosure isn't going to come upon the consent of the U.S. government. It's going to be whether or not the aliens want the rest of the world to know of their presence, yes or no. And if they decide that, then they will let it happen. But there's no amount of twerking we can do to make the U.S. government squawk about it. They won't talk.
Well, it's like this picture I just put up here. Now, this picture has been sent to a lot of people. So if you look at this picture, you'll notice this is the power plant in Blunt Island, Florida. Okay, near Agus Cruiser Base, no less. So when you look at this picture, you're really not seeing anything. When you look up at the end on the left, you see what looks to be a disc. Now, this is not a UFO, but wait, let me bring it down so you can actually
in this
see
picture,
it.
it looks like a smoke cloud, but when you go down,
So let's put that up where you can see that. So if you look, this is a disc, but the reason this thing is showing is somehow or another, you see the smoke coming out this stack. This thing is sitting there over a power plant, and unfortunately for it, it must be spinning or something because it picked up the smoke. The smoke made this. And if you notice, there's a little circle in the center. What no one actually saw when we got this picture originally is this thing right here, which is a UFO. Headed right for the center of this. Now, there is no explanation for this. I've had all kind of experts look at this and say, well, what caused this? How can this smoke coming out of this do this perfect ring? You know, like a dropestone almost. I'm like,
well, if you're
how could that possibly be?
If it goes to the hottest point, and so that whatever is invisible there is probably very warm, and so the smoke is attracted to it.
Actually, it's more like it's moving. It's probably
Could do that
spinning.
too. If it were spinning, it could be attracted.
Because you can see, I mean, it's perfect size all the way around, it's equal distance, no any way you measure it at, it's there.
Yeah.
Now, when we took this picture, when we took this picture, you could not see anything with your naked eye whatsoever. This only came out on the camera. That's where it came out at. And this wasn't even a very sophisticated. Yeah, this wasn't even very sophisticated. Well, it wasn't a film. It was digital, I believe. But you know what? Hold on. I tell you what exactly it was. Give me a second. I'm pretty sure what we included in
the
this.
digital Canon A60. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what this was. It was taken in March 4th, Little Marsh Island, Florida. So when you do this, I mean, on this picture, you can actually, when I pull it down some, you can actually see the smoke. Now the smoke is going up, and then all of a sudden it curves back down to get to this. And then it forms this perfect ring with the center ring. And then over here is this little thing right here, just flying right up to it. Now, is it a ship? Is it a portal? I have no idea what the hell it is.
It looks like there's 2 circular indentations on it, and then 3 like rectilinear lines, which may be indications of landing gear. So I would say it's some sort of a invisible.
But you're not going to. There's no way you're going to tell me this has anything to do with our government whatsoever. And anybody who's seen has been the same.
If it
way.
were an energy portal, I think it would be a lot more energetic.
Well, whatever it is big.
If it was a Stargate, or it was supposed to, or a wormhole, even there would be some event horizon that would be visible to the naked eye.
Maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
But this thing is huge. I mean, look at the size of it compared to the facility underneath it.
So if that smoke weren't there, it would probably be invisible, though. So I have to say,
it's tilted.
Mechanical. And it's tilted. It's a mechanical device. It's not a portal.
So whatever it is, it's there for anybody to look at it. It's why it's on the film. We got lots
Why
of
would the
pictures.
UFO have to go to a portal? Why wouldn't it just like stay where it is and create the portal directly in front of it and then like move like 5 feet?
Well, no, I don't think they can create the portal. I think that so we've got lots of witnesses of seeing these at nighttime, seeing these black things that come over them that blot out all the stars, and you'll see craft running into them. There's some type of portal.
Well,
they've been seen around Lake Charles a lot for some
blocking out the
reason.
stars behind it. It's a physical object. It's not an event horizon.
That's a portal. Yeah, no.
No, it's not a portal.
It's just nothing. So you got 3 points and nothing in the center. It's just open. It's a portal. It's not a craft. It's just moving along.
If that's a cloaked metallic craft, it would have the same effect of blocking out the stars when it moved over.
Yeah, but you couldn't just enter it anywhere if it was a craft. You'd run into it. That's the point.
Well,
these things just go into it. They just zap right into it. And they've got hundreds of these pictures over near, I can't remember the damn fort. It's in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And they're all over down there. They see them on a regular basis. There's lots of film taken of them. They just enter wherever they want to enter on however they want to enter. They just zap in there. It's and a matter of fact, most of the time they say when you see them go in, it makes like a little, like, when you throw a rock in water, it makes like an energy wave. So it's very strange stuff, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that was. That was near. I mean, and what got me is it went to the standard electric facility when there's a nuclear facility, not even 60 miles down the road.
Well, it does look unusual. I think it's really hard to say for sure because look at lenticular clouds; they're perfectly circular, and look at a whole cloud. That's circular as well, and it's a vortex, a tornado. Winds can make that sort of form, but
this thing was stationary over a facility, wasn't moving. It's almost like it was waiting for that other craft.
You have to have been there to really make an assessment of it, or see multiple photographs of it. But I do think it's interesting because we do know UFOs are very interested in anything technological. I did a whole study of UFOs over prisons. They absolutely visit all the prisons across the world. But Air Force bases, we know this, anything nuclear, of course. Mines, anything. In fact, Jim McCord Lorenzen noticed this pattern long ago and saw a new technological installation being built and predicted there would be UFO sightings over it. And sure enough, there were. So we know they closely monitor anything that has anything to do with our technology.
But without the camera, you wouldn't have seen it. It was invisible to the naked eye. You couldn't see it with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we didn't even think about it.
Wasn't there? If the smoke wasn't there, you wouldn't have picked. You wouldn't have
got it. Yeah, you wouldn't have got anything. Because I mean, you can see the smoke. It's pulling the smoke. There's no doubt it's pulling the smoke. It's whatever it is, which I have no idea what it is. It's definitely pulling that smoke, and you can see that it's got an edge, a thicker edge all the way around. So I couldn't tell you what it was. It was just sitting there.
It could be its electronic shields attracting it. It could be the gravity wave generator is attracting the smoke. It could be the heat. And it could be.
But there was 6 of us. There was 6 of us in the car, and there was actually other pictures that is taken, but no one saw anything. It was days later. Jason, rest in peace, a good friend of mine passed away just recently. He calls me up. He says, "Joe, what the hell is this?" And he sends me the picture. I said, "Well, don't know what." And that little thing on the side, the little craft on the side, no one noticed for almost 2 weeks. We were looking at it.
And she's a big photographic buff and was taking pictures at Zuma Beach. And 2 of these pictures show your classic kind of tic-tac shaped object coming up out of the water. It can't be a photo defect.
No, they're not. That's the thing.
One is slightly different from the other. It looks like a solid, well, of course, not visible to anyone. It was a crowded beach.
Now, one of the best
cameras picking up objects that are not visible to the naked eye.
One of the best videos I got was in Eglin Air Force Base. We were sitting out there screwing around, and we seen this disc. It just came out. It came loaded on the water, and it sat there for a few minutes. And you seen some flashes off this tower 4 or 5 times. Then it came in. Eglin's a weird place. It's got 884,000 square acres of base. And inside of there are 60 runways that have no roads to them at all. There's no roads going to them at all. Well, this thing, we watched it with the camera on the video, watched it go out. It landed on the runway. Nothing came out, and then it just disappeared. I guess the runway ascended and it disappeared. Hell, we messed up one time, went walking around, so you can walk around the fence at Eglin. And they had a couple of buildings and some other stuff right there on the beach. And my crazy wife goes, we go to this building and we're looking at this building. She said, look, the stairs keep going down. I said, baby, we're not going walking down there. Before I could get hold of her ass, she's halfway down. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if something happened or not. I'd be lying to you because I don't remember anything. Nothing whatsoever. And I don't want to be hypnotized to find out. I just one of them things I don't want to know about. But we lost. It's one of the Ed Walters would tell you we lost 11 days in Eglin. Completely 11 days. Even it was so bad that the hotel we were staying at were calling the cops to see what happened to us because our car was there. No one had been in the room. It was a very, very, very strange event. It was. We were down there. We were actually, Preston, we were going on vacation. We weren't doing no UFO hunting. We were going on vacation. Well, we checked into the Blue Horizon, and guess who's there? Whatchamacallit with number one who hosts the show. They were there out there in UFO hunting. So next night, everybody was out on the bridge on the fishing pier. The mayor was out there. Police chief was out there. Untold Mysteries were out there. And this thing just came out of nowhere under the water, glowing green, passed under the three bridges, passed under the trestle, lifted itself out of the water. It was like globs of gold balls were just running off of it. Everybody's out there flicking cameras, suing videos, the whole 9 yards. And I said, well, you know what? I didn't come out here for this. I actually coming to go on vacation. I was planning on spending 11, 12 days on vacation. I wanted some rest. And then out of the blue, we were out on the beach one night and poof, 11 days of our life was gone. And Ed Walters did the initial do up on the case. And then we talked a lot about it. He did a lot of work with us. And the thing of it is there was just too much black ops in MUFON. There was just too much of it. Too many people had worked for different op companies. So I said, you know what? I love being here, but I got to go somewhere where I feel the information is safe. But he stuck with us for a long time. Because he had made Linda was an advanced. She did science stuff for him, and I did other stuff for him. And we were with him for quite some time. It's where we did our first 5,000 person abduction case. But they didn't like anybody talking about abduction, so they asked me to close up the file. So I kept it. I didn't give it to him. It's one of the things that we first started doing abduction criteria on. It was the whole thing was very, very strange. Still to this day, I could only tell you about that much of what happened. And somebody asked me one time, "Are you a contactee?" I said, "Yes, but I never talk about it." And he's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, if you go to the alienenigma.com site, I posted that there 25 years ago. That way, if I ever decided to come out, it was there. I didn't want anybody thinking I was coming out because of whatever reason. So I posted it a way long time ago. And I still don't talk about it, to be honest with you, because I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about the contactee. You know, I'm more interested in the experiencer than I am about my own personal experiences. They're there. If I ever need to know about them, they're there. But I really am more interested in what's happened to other people. Besides, that'll help explain what happened to me anyway.
Well, I think most people who are researching this field are probably contactees.
No, I agree.
They might not talk about it. I certainly didn't. I've had my own experiences, but really concentrated on talking about other people.
It's the best way to do it.
Like, sort of, it was a long pathway for me to even realize, like, they know about me. That became clear pretty early on. But I did have a missing time encounter in 1992, so it wasn't 11 days. If that happened to me, Joe, I think I probably would go under hypnosis. Just saying, that's a long time.
It was. Well, I mean, there was some hypnosis, but some of the stuff that came out, I don't want to get into it tonight because it take up too much of your time. But it's maybe one time when we're talking on a different night, I'll talk to you about it. But it was all I can say was very strange, and I didn't know. The funny part is I was going to the hotel to pay the girl for an extra 2 days because we're going to stay another 2 days. And she's like, where the hell you been? I'm like, what are you talking about? We've been here. Oh, no, sir. And when we got right down to it, there was no money spent on my credit card. All the cash I had was still there. The car hadn't moved. And she showed me on the video camera where my car hadn't moved for 11 days. She said, we'd already called the police. We thought somebody took you. And then the police were all freaked out and didn't believe me. I'm like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. But I know what to tell him, Preston. I was kind of fickle. But, we get, so, and really, truly, I didn't talk about it much for a long time. I did let your big boy over at MUFON handle it because, I've been knowing him for a long time. And I knew he was getting ready to retire and let, what's his face take over. So I was kind of like, well, I think we'll just keep mostly. It's funny. The original letter we sent to MUFON, I had sent to him, addressed to your big boy. And it came back 6 years later. Somebody had cut it into 1 billion pieces, but wait, taped them back together.
Oh, yeah.
Now, who the hell would do that? And why the hell would they do that?
Who has that much time on their hands?
They were little tiny pieces like this. I'm like, what the hell? We still got the letter.
That's crazy.
I
wouldn't even know what to think of that. What's the message?
I didn't. I was just like, well, we're going to keep this as evidence and leave it at that. I didn't know what to think about that. And we get some weird cases.
Well, the message is clear that they are watching you actively.
Well, at the time, I really was still flirting with the idea that I might be a contactee. I was just kind of like, maybe not. I really didn't want. It's not that I was worried about it so much as I just didn't want it to interfere with what I was doing. I was more interested in what was happening to other people. There was just so many people coming to me at that time. And the organization had gotten, was growing and growing and growing. I just didn't want to let it interfere with what I was doing with other people. We were in the middle of setting up abduction criteria, which is, we have now. And we were in the middle with quite a few other things, setting up hypnosis criteria. How do we do hypnosis? And there's a lot of rules we were setting up. Everybody had to be under, even today, they still have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to be a director or researcher for the organization. And the only way that you can talk about a case is openly is to get my signature and the person that the case is about signature. Because we didn't want things like that happen at other organizations where they just went out and wrote books about people's stuff, making money without the other person's permission. So, it's just, it's like the Golf Breeze case. I got called in on the Golf Breeze case when I was with MUFON, and because I forgot who it was over there was debunking it. What's his name? Jack Smith. I can't remember his name right now, but matter of fact, he was the very first guest I ever had on Wake Up USA. I thought I got fired because him and I got in a big nasty fight. It was a bad argument. I thought for sure I was fired. And then my producer goes, "Oh no, I like that. Look at all the people in the room." I'm like, shit. Oh man, it was really
that case divided the UFO community. I think it's clearly something going on there. So how many witnesses do you need?
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a thing
out of the whole equation. But I found him quite credible, actually.
Yeah, there were some good cases out there, and but when they had called me about the case because they were trying to debunk the Ed Walters case, and I always get their two names confused. I always get the head of MUFON and I flip-flop their names for some reason.
Well, Ed Walters is Florida.
Yeah, and I always flip-flop their names. So from what's his name?
Only geniuses do that, by the way.
It's I don't know what that is. I always flip-flop it. Well, Walt I had been doing for a long time. Before.
It's a symptom of dyslexia. I have it too. I do it all the time.
Yeah. I had met Walt outside of MUFON, and then he actually asked us to come into MUFON.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was a good researcher, and he worked hard at what he did. And it took me a long time to convince him that there might be such a thing as alien abduction. But Piola Harris got mad at me for 2 years when I asked. So did Richard Dolan. When I was hosting Wake Up USA, I was talking. She said, "I don't know. We can't talk about that." And she stayed mad at me until I seen her at the 60th anniversary at Roswell. And I hugged her at the little diner place. And then she said, okay. And then after that, she was fine with alien abduction. As a matter of fact, she does it all the time now. But before then, she didn't even.
No one would even touch humanoid reports.
No, they didn't. They didn't want to touch it. Richard got. But yeah, they sent me to go help with Ed Walters because they were debunking it. And I was like, they gave me a list of what the debunking was, and I was like, well, wait. I said, you're telling me the kid found a UFO in the attic 7 years after the guy moved out the house. I was like, well, the owners didn't ever go up in the attic because it wasn't anybody from the owner. It was just a kid, random kid. I was like, really? And I said, okay. So I caught the kid. I caught up with him, and I was putting him through the interrogation. I said, well, you know what? I said, when you lie about this stuff, they got a deep, dark hole up to put you in. They won't let you out of. And he busted down in tears and confessed the whole damn thing. I mean, he was tearing up. I got the whole thing on video, and I was like, he's like, I was like, dude, why did you do that? He said, well, he said, I was paid for it. I said, by who? He said, I don't know. I was like, really? You don't know? He said, no, I don't know. I was like, okay, well, you know, that happens all the time in today's world. So, but Ed Walters was a nice guy. I talked to him, I don't know, a dozen times or so. And I wouldn't be honest with you.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but did not Ed Walters take his photographs with a Polaroid type, the type that spits out an image as soon as you take a picture?
Bruce Maccabee gave him a foolproof camera with, you know, triangulation, could not be tampered with.
I love Bruce.
Yeah,
I always love Bruce.
So there's someone in the chat room earlier that mentioned that, you know, they only trust Polaroids, and I hate to bust his bubble, but I'm with Ed Walters. I think Ed Walters has a legit sighting. I don't think his pictures were faked, and neither does Bruce Maccabee, who I also trust. And I also trust my own eyes. But the fact is that Polaroids can be faked. It takes a very skilled hand. You have to be a trained, you have to have exposed film and developed film for a long time to get that skill. But it is very possible to pre-expose Polaroid film cameras.
Yeah, but I think if I remember right,
in the wild, and there's a UFO in it.
If I remember right, Walters had the camera where it was locked, so you couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's how he did it. So I always liked Bruce. He did really good work over the years. I've seen a lot of his work.
Bruce is another skeptic. When he started to be given these photographs, he was of the mindset of Preston and Dr. Hynek that it's bullshit, you know, not a real phenomenon. And then after looking at the data, he had to change his opinion.
Yeah, I love the early researchers: James McDonald.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Hynek, the Lorenzens,
Charles Berliner,
Walter West.
Their integrity was there. You weren't going to question.
Walter West, very awesome.
Well, it's because they had integrity. You didn't have to worry about if they were faking something or fudging something or lying about something. I kind of missed that.
Well, I like Dr. West and Dr. Boval, and I don't think it's Dr., but Robert Boval and Robert Schocker. They came together in the Giza Plateau on the it's a video documentary they did on the pyramids, but the Sphinx. And they were all like, you know, they were ridiculed for their opinion that, you know, the Sphinx wasn't built in and around Khufu's time, that it was built 10,000 years ago, and that it was built during a time when it was underwater at one point. This is why it got the erosion on it. And they were so lambasted, but their data holds up today. This is 1983, I think. And
anyone who pioneers knowledge as a tough road.
Dr. Anthony West, Robert Schock, and Robert Boval. There's 1983-82 that they did this, and they all got lambasted across the community for it.
Yeah, well, the Sumerians and Mesopotamian Egyptians is, if you want proof of extraterrestrials, that's a good place to start. It's I always tell people when people ask me where's the best place to start getting ufologists, I said start in the past, work yourself forward. I said there's a lot of good information coming forward. I said you got the Sumerians, Mesopotamians, Egyptians. Then when you jump over to this continent, I said you've got the Nazcans, you've got the Egyptians, you've got the Toltecs, you've got the Mayans, Incan, and Aztecs. There just seems to be societies on this planet that knew ahead of time. What about Native Americans? Well, you can say Native Americans too. I'm not hating on Native Americans. I'm not hating on them. I said I just feel there's a lot of evidence in the past. There's a lot of evidence in the past, and there's a lot of evidence right now. And for some reason, we just want to just stick our nose up at it and ignore it. And it's not just America; it's the whole freaking planet. It's except for some of the South American countries, they still believe. But the rest of the world is kind of like, what is it? Preston, what do you think? Is it just fear? Do we not like the idea that there might be somebody smarter than us in the universe? I mean,
No,
I don't understand.
I think it's a very well orchestrated cover up that we're all really victims of it, made to look at UFO witnesses as fools, liars, idiots, drug users. It's been very, very effective, and it's really unfortunate.
Yes, it is. Christopher, you know,
It is coming up on time for us to go, is it not?
almost. It's Christopher, you mean talking to the Fed? I didn't ask to talk to the Fed. I was referred to them by somebody. They wouldn't tell me who either. I don't know. They wouldn't tell me who it was. I asked like 500 times. They wouldn't tell me. What happened is ICAR's got the largest database of extraterrestrial contactees in the world, probably by far. We got the largest organization with 61,000 members. And when you hear me talk about 124,000 cases, that's cases that we agree that, you know, four or more of the investigators agree those cases are legit. It's not how many cases we've investigated. You'd have to triple that. And somebody said, well, you can't do that. But he said, of course I couldn't. But 60, back then it was about 58,000. It was, that's only 2 cases per person. It's not a big load.
It's not hard to achieve that.
But the way our sites are set up and the way we do things, it takes a lot of the guesswork out before we get there. And having abduction criteria, which is 50% has been made public, 50% hasn't, it also helps our job a lot. And because I'm looking for the truth. Not necessarily for me, I'm just looking for the truth. I don't care. I don't even care what the truth is at this point. I just want to know.
It's not your truth or my truth. Truth is truth.
Truth is truth. Yeah, well, Preston might be an alien if you want to know.
There may be some hidden truths there, some things that the U.S. government did and is doing and has done that would upset some people's, worlds and make them very angry.
Well, I'm definitely looking for the truth, people, and I'm hoping we get to it in my lifetime. I'm getting old now. When I started, this was 41 years ago, so I'm kind of like, okay. I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and a lot of investigators, a lot of experiencers. I've had lots of other people talk to experiences. The reason our directorship is set up the way it is to make sure we stay honest. Yeah, so we don't go off, on some rant or something. It's to stay honest. Anytime I want to change a case or think that something's different, like in the Hills case, I've got a bunch of directors I have to deal with. Oh, yes. And they're not all nice and sweetsy like me either. Because the goal is if I find something I think that was a mistake or I think should be corrected or changed, it has to make it through the echelon of the top directors. And they're tough. And that's their job, is to be tough. My favorite one who's passed away was DeAndrew, and she would have beat me over the head with something if she didn't think I was telling the truth. I'm not kidding. She had flown down from Arizona, took a stick to my ass. She was one of my favorite directors. And
research is important. We all need to do our own research.
We do.
Look into it. Someone mentioned the Greada Treaty. I personally think that's straight up disinformation. I don't think that our ETs would ever make trade technology to a corrupt government known for weaponizing everything.
Yeah. Oh, and they didn't. So the treaty was never. If it is a true thing, and what's her name? Eisenhower. Laura Eisenhower is a strong proponent of that. He did disappear for several days on a weekend.
Oh yeah, that meeting happened.
Yeah, the meeting happened. The Reagan meeting happened too, but
whether or not they signed the Greada Treaty is anyone's speculation. But if they did, and let me say, if it's a real thing, if the Greada Treaty is real, and Eisenhower signed away our birthright to aliens to basically abduct us for a space gun, that a lot of people would be very upset about that if that really was true.
Yeah, I don't even think they would do that. Why would they give us something when they're already taking us? I mean, and one of the things we've looked at for a long time is this has been going on for a very, 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 very long time, and they definitely abduct in family lines. So, so why give us something when they already have basically what they want? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But I know we got to get out of here because we're fixing to jump into Michelle DeRoche's time, and I don't want her beating up on Preston. So, I'm gonna blame it on Preston. No, it's all his fault. It's all his fault. No, Preston's always a great guest. We had a lot of conversation going on here tonight. I've seen nothing but good stuff coming across all the boards tonight, which is really nice to see. Between the chat and here and the chat and the other 3 boards, had to be well over 400 or 500 people watching us in chat. So that's always a good thing. Nice to see you Rumble people show up too. Rumble. Yes. YouTube.
There's 119 on Preston's channel in YouTube alone.
Yeah, and then we've got all these ones. What's that, Kimberly? No, you probably will never hear me really talk about my experiences. Maybe in the future, but it's not. Let me put it this way: it's not to my advantage to do so. No, there's no. Only reason that website is up there is in case I ever say something like I did tonight. Somebody can't go around saying, "Oh, Joe's just wanting to jump on board." No, that site's been up for 25 or 26 years. That's why it's up there. It's not up there for any other reason. It only talks a little bit about what's happened in my life. And anyway, we got to go because I don't want Michelle whooping up on us.
Yeah, she gets really angry when we overlap.
She's the boss lady, man. We don't mess with the boss lady. I know y'all think I own the station, but she's still the boss lady, man. she is the boss. On that note, we're going to get out. Leah. Preston, you want to give me the information where they can find you, what you're up to, and things like that?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'm pretty easy to find. My books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online retailers. I have a YouTube channel where I put out a lot of my information. Website, just punch in my name, it'll take you there. Dolly and I do the Light Gate every Monday evening, 8 Eastern. So we're having a fun time with that. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It was fun.
Yes, they got a good show over there, and it's growing fast, guys. So be sure to check them out. On that note, y'all know I'm here on Wednesdays, Friday night for news. Saturday's a double day for me. I host 2 shows. I'm on the Arthur Quill with John Goodwin, which is more to do with writers of the future. And then I do the chat, which, don't ask me, people. It's the largest show both in the networks, live and in archive. I have no idea because it's the dumbest show on the network.
Yeah, it's going off the hook.
it's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because we let y'all pick the topics. I have no idea. Maybe it's because Leah acts like a gray ass. I don't know, but it's a very weird show. Anyway, we got to get out of here. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to United Public Radio, UFO Paranormal, United Public Radio, and UFO Undercover. Hope to see everybody Friday night. Stay out of trouble today, and good night, everybody.